All right, here is a crow that decides he wants to take a break from flying, so he hitches a ride on an eagle, Vlad. Both birds were flying over Seebeck, Washington.
America! The sneaky little crow spotted a chance to take a break, so he jumped on the eagle's back. That's an American eagle, it looks like. A photographer caught the rare moment on the camera. The encounter lasted just a few seconds before the birds parted and went their separate ways.
What do you think that bald eagle's thinking? Get off my back.
Get off my back. Don't tread on me.
A very dangerous weather system. We've already seen it damage on the ground. Take a look now. These are some very ominous looking images seen in meteorology. I don't know if we can take down that banner, if that would help at all, I guess, or if there's nothing really to see on the ground there. But I mean, you really get a sense of just how large this system is. I want to go to our meteorologist, Tom Sater. He joins us with the latest on what's going on. What are you seeing here when you look at what's going on? What is this? Funnel cloud?
Yeah, it's a massive supercell storm right now, Anderson, that is showing rotation, as you can see it. Now, trained weather spotters have spotted a tornado that was on the ground near Lee's Summit, Missouri. This is just to the southeast of the Kansas City metro area. So along with this, it's moving southeast away from Kansas City, and you can see there's debris now. There is debris on the ground, so we're getting this not only now a Doppler indicated rotation, but you can start to see the damage. No reports of damage from the previous touchdown of this. This is all in a watch, a tornado watch from Kansas City, Kansas, down toward Joplin, Missouri, over toward central Missouri, in Columbia, where the University of Missouri is. This is in effect until midnight. Now, this warning, most likely, that was extended to run from 7 Central Time to 7:30, will most likely be extended. But you can see there's the transformers that are blowing now, so the strong circulation on the ground. Earlier, Anderson, you couldn't see it much because it was wrapped in rain. But this is a big indication. Look at the monster-sized storm. This is, of course, the bottom of the supercell, as the atmosphere is extremely volatile right now from parts of eastern Kansas across into central Missouri. I wouldn't be surprised, too, if the National Weather Service extends the tornado watch for central Missouri eastward to include the metropolitan area of St. Louis. Now, currently, there's 2.7 million people in this watch, but this is the main thunderstorm cell that is producing a tornado at this time. You can see what it's doing there now.
Breaking news, and Amy, you've got the morning rundown over there. Police responding to the Washington Navy Yard.
That's right, George. There is word that police in Washington are responding to reports of an active shooter at the D.C. Navy Yard. Park Police confirming they are responding again to reports, but have not yet confirmed that there is, in fact, a shooter. No casualties known at this time. This is, though, the same Navy Yard where 12 people were killed back in 2013 when that gunman opened fire. ABC's Pierre Thomas is watching from Washington. Pierre, what do we know right now?
I mean, so far, law enforcement officials are checking into this. Again, no confirmed that there actually is a shooter. Law enforcement officials are concerned, obviously. You can see that they have a heavy police presence down there at the Washington Navy Yard. Given all the concerns leading up to the 4th of July holiday celebrations, law enforcement officials are taking no chances. They're going to check this out. We are speaking to federal law enforcement sources who are descending on the scene as well. Again, they want to go through this and find out precisely what's going on. As you said, no reports of casualties at this point.
Breaking news overnight. The historic Mount Zion AME Church in South Carolina up in flames. The latest in a series of prominent black churches to burn over the last several days. The big question now is why. And ABC's Steve Osunsami is on the scene in Greeleyville, South Carolina. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, George. We drove through the night to get here, and when we arrived, you could still smell the fumes. Investigators are in the building searching for clues. The fire department is here. They're taking a good look at the roof to see what happened. This morning, federal investigators are here in rural South Carolina trying to determine if what burned this historic black church was an act of man or an act of God. By 8:30 last night, the Mount Zion AME Church in Greeleyville was already in flames, and giant clouds of smoke were filling the night sky. The flames shooting from the building's roof were so intense, they needed 50 firefighters to fight them. It took more than 2 hours to quiet the fire. No one was injured. Authorities haven't said what started the flames, but they're not ruling out lightning from thunderstorms that started rolling through around 6 o'clock last night. But why are black churches burning? This is now the 7th to go down in fire since the deadly shooting at Charleston's Emmanuel AME Church 2 weeks ago, about 60 miles away.
The Baptist Church on Briar Creek Road, right before Central, it's on fire.
The FBI is now investigating fires at black churches dear to black families across 5 southern states, including this one in North Carolina that burned last week.
Just seeing the flames just up in the air, that had me terrified.
Charlotte authorities say that fire was no accident, saying this is clearly arson. For Mount Zion, many worry this morning that history is repeating itself. It was 20 years ago when 2 Ku Klux Klan members burned the church to the ground. President Clinton came here to help them celebrate after they rebuilt a year later and condemn the attacks.
I will do everything I can to prosecute those responsible for the rash of church burnings.
The families here now have to rebuild again as black churches across the country worry that they may be under attack.
Breaking news, that freight train carrying toxic chemicals catching fire in Maryville, Tennessee, forcing thousands from their homes. ABC's David Curley is in Washington with the latest. Good morning, David.
Morning, Robin. We're talking just one rail car here, but fire and officials say this chemical involved has led them to tell 5,000 people they need to evacuate, get out of their homes, and get away from that area. It is a toxic cloud that is on the move this morning near a Tennessee town. One CSX car caught fire in the middle of the night on a trip to Georgia.
I started hearing brakes being pulled. It's what sounded like brakes, a lot of smoke, and so I thought maybe something was going on.
Just one car involved, but the chemical burning used to make plastics is toxic. So in a 2-mile area, firefighters are going door to door telling people to move away.
Based on the chemical flume and the direction it was heading, they've had to expand the evacuation area, and our command post even had to relocate because it was in danger of being exposed. Nearly
24 first responders have been or are being taken to hospitals for decontamination as a precaution. Now, this chemical is acrylonitrile. It's also known as vinyl cyanide. It is flammable, and the danger comes from breathing it in. So far, though, no serious injuries have been reported, George.
Gordon, just days after the Supreme Court legalized gay marriage nationwide, Christian leaders are still dealing with what it means for religious liberty in America. And representatives from 11 religious groups gathered at the High Court to talk about its implications. Paul Strand has the story.
In one short week, the Supreme Court's decision changing the definition of marriage has sent shockwaves through America's religious communities.
We have seen from same-sex marriage decisions the repression of religious freedom, of freedom of speech, and of freedoms of parents to guide the education of their own children.
LifeSite news editor John Henry Weston also pointed to what has happened to gay marriage opponents in other countries where it's already the law of the land.
In Ireland, when it passed, same-sex registrars were told they could be jailed for 6 months. Churches faced fines for denying same-sex ceremonies. In France, they forbid negative speech against homosexuality.
And some warn that the government could force Christians to go along with the new view of marriage.
Christian America is under siege by the forces of secularism. There is no doubt that the advocates of same-sex marriage will attempt to use the full force of the U.S. government to force Christians to secularize.
Weston advises Christian colleges, churches, and businesses to protect themselves from discrimination lawsuits by showing their resistance is not about homosexuality, it's about defending God's teaching on sexuality as a whole.
A principle of being against pornography and obviously sex before marriage and promiscuity and everything like that. And so those policies will at least, if they're upfront and known, will at least be showing, look, we are for the whole Christian teaching, the whole teaching of God's design for human sexuality, which we believe and practice, and therefore we're not being discriminatory at all.
Paul.
The man in Montana who said he was inspired by last week's Supreme Court decision legalizing same-sex marriage across the country is applying for a license so he can legally wed his second wife, even though he's still with the first. Simone D'Albo of CBS affiliate KTVQ in Billings, Montana, met them all.
Nathan Collier and his partner Christine went to the Yellowstone County Courthouse looking to be wed under the Marriage Equality Act. The Colliers practice polygamy, but it's currently illegal under Montana state law.
We just want to add legal legitimacy to an already happy, functional, strong, loving family.
As the two filled out their marriage application, they were met with questions.
There's a spot on there where you put the dissolution date of your previous marriage, and we put NA.
Okay. You're married to someone else?
I'm married to my first wife, Victoria.
Okay.
The couple was met with surprise.
So are you legally married to
I'm legally
one
married
person?
to Victoria.
So you didn't get divorced from her yet?
No, we're a plural family. I'm a polygamist. I have 2 wives.
Hold on just a sec.
We're not even asking for acceptance. We're just asking for tolerance. Let us live our lives together without fear.
The question at hand, could the Marriage Equality Act extend to polygamists? Now, that part isn't quite clear.
Okay. And we'll have to deny that because let me go grab the other supervisor real quick so I can get confirmation. But as far as I'm aware, you can't be married to 2 people at the same time.
The Colliers were initially denied the license. The clerk later returned, saying they would have to check with the Attorney General's office. When asked for comment, MTN News was referred to 2 sections of Montana law stating polygamy is illegal.
For us to come together and create a family, what is wrong with that? I don't understand why it's looked and frowned upon as being obscene.
All right, so if it turns out that you can, then I guess we've all learned something today.
The couple's goal is to have their story heard. The Colliers say if the state of Montana could recognize their marriage as legal, it could be the catalyst for other states to follow suit.
All we want is legal legitimacy. We're not asking anybody for anything else.
In Billings, Simone D'Alba, MTN News.
Gay marriage ceremonies are now officially allowed in Episcopalian churches. Church officials voted to allow same-sex weddings Wednesday. The church elected their first openly gay bishop back in 2003. Since then, many dioceses have allowed priests to perform civil same-sex ceremonies. Under the new rules, clergy can decline to perform the ceremonies as well.
Egypt's military hits back. The Air Force launches strikes at targets in northern Sinai as tanks patrol the border with Gaza and Israel. The area is in lockdown after a series of coordinated attacks on Egyptian security forces. After hours of combat, the military leadership announced on state television the situation in the Sinai Peninsula was 100% under control.
And the armed forces personnel in the north of Sinai, supported by air forces, hunted down and destroyed the hideouts of those operatives, killing not less than 100 terrorist operatives.
Fighters in the Sinai have stepped up their campaign after the military overthrow of former President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. Groups like Ansar Beit al-Maqdis have been carrying out numerous attacks on police and the military. Last year, the group became known as Province of Sinai and swore allegiance to the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Concern is high its fighters are operating beyond the Sinai and in the capital, Cairo. On Monday, Egypt's Prosecutor General was assassinated in a car bomb bearing the hallmarks of the group. In response, the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi ordered his cabinet to introduce tougher laws to tackle what he calls terrorism. The security situation is fraught in Cairo. On Wednesday, police raided an apartment, killing members of the outlawed Muslim Brotherhood group. The Interior Ministry said the victims were fugitive leaders who were plotting attacks, something the group denies.
They were all assassinated in cold blood. The slain members were merely supporting the bereaved mothers, orphaned children and widows of the victims.
With attacks on the increase within its borders, Egypt's military finds itself on the offensive and defensive. Wednesday's assault is a stark reminder of exactly what challenges it's up against.
"1,200 prisoners are on the run in Yemen after a jailbreak in the city of Taiz. Al-Qaeda sympathizers are said to have attacked the site, which is controlled by Houthi rebels. It's not the first time Al-Qaeda has been able to capitalize on the country's chaos amid ongoing Saudi-led airstrikes against the Houthis. Earlier this year, Al-Qaeda affiliates seized the key port city in the south, releasing some 300 inmates, including from their own group. Just a day later, the militants overran a military base there, bringing an oil terminal as well as the air hub under their control. Political analyst Max Abrams thinks the latest prison break is another fallout from the Saudi-led campaign that's driving Yemen into further turmoil.
Clearly, this is going to have an even worse effect on a country that's already in tatters. All of the sides are expanding. The Houthis are increasing their territory. Islamic State is really coming up out of nowhere and generating a huge amount of violence. And now AQAP is also expanding, and the Saudis are bombing, and the civilian population is paying. And so I don't see any strategy by any of these actors. All I see is more bloodshed.